27 men entered the Ozark Forest in 1883. Only 9 walked out, silent and forever changed. What did they see? The air bit sharp and cold. November winds ripped through the Ozark Mountains, stripping trees bare. It was 1883. A group of 27 trappers pushed deep into the wilderness. They were rugged men, hardened by countless winters. Their faces weathered, their hands rough. This was their life. Furs meant survival. Money for families back home. They knew these woods, or so they thought. Their destination was Big Creek, a place rich with beaver and otter. A routine trip, a chance for a good haul before the true bite of winter. Hope filled their rough canvas packs. They joked, they smoked pipes, they told familiar stories around crackling fires. The smell of pine, damp earth, and wood smoke hung heavy. Each day they moved further from civilization, further from safety. Their camp was set. Crude shelters rose against ancient trees. The sounds of axes, of men working, echoed through the vast quiet. The forest seemed to watch them. Its shadows deepened with each passing hour. The stillness was profound. Only the rustle of dry leaves or a distant owl broke the quiet. They saw no danger, only opportunity. The days passed. Traps were set. Small game fell. Success felt close. They built up their stores. Laughter still rang out, but the forest was old. Older than any man. It held secrets. Deep, forgotten things. Things that stirred when the air grew cold enough. They were ready for a long stay. Ready for the harsh winter ahead. They settled into the rhythm of the wild. The Ozarks had always provided, always given up its bounty. But this time something else waited. Something not listed in any trapper's guide. Something that watched from the deepest shadows. And it had plans for the 27 men. Plans they could not escape. Plans that would change them forever. If they even made it out alive. Weeks bled into winter. The Ozark nights grew long and sharp. The forest held its breath. A shiver went through the small settlements. It wasn't just the biting cold. It was the waiting. 27 men had vanished into the deep, dark woods. Hope, once a flickering ember, began to curdle into a cold dread. Then they came back. Not 27 strong, laughing trappers. Only 9. They stumbled out of the wilderness, ghosts wearing men's clothes. They were not the men who left. They were hollowed-out shells, gaunt, ragged, their skins stretched tight over bone, their clothes torn by unseen snags, stained with mud and something darker. Their faces were not just weary. They were etched with something far worse than hunger or fatigue. A silent, screaming terror. The townspeople rushed to meet them. Relief warred with profound horror. Questions poured out like a torrent. What happened? Where are the others? Who did this? But no answers came. The 9 men said nothing. Not a single word. Not a whisper. Their mouths were tight, drawn lines refusing to open. As if their tongues had been ripped out by some unseen force. Or perhaps, something had stolen their voices, holding them captive still. Their eyes. That was the true horror. Their pupils were huge black saucers. Always wide. Always dilated. Even in the dim light of a kerosene lamp, their eyes never shrank. They stared out, fixed on something far away. Something only they could see. Something that still lived in the darkness behind their vacant gaze, reflecting an endless night. It was like looking into a bottomless well. They moved like automatons, like puppets with severed strings. They ate little. They slept less. Nightmares tore through their restless bodies. But even in their sleep they made no sound. No cries, no whimpers, no screams. Just shuddering, twitching forms. They were trapped. Trapped inside their own heads with whatever unspeakable horror they had witnessed. Doctors had no answers. The local preacher spoke of ancient evils roused from the earth. The people whispered of curses and spirits, of the woods claiming its due. What could silence 9 strong, hardened men? What could leave such an indelible, terrifying mark on their souls? The Ozark wilderness had always been wild, but this was something new. Something truly, profoundly evil. The 9 survivors lived among them, breathing and walking, but they were not truly present. Their bodies remained. Their minds were lost, and the forest that claimed their friends seemed to still hold a piece of them. A dark, terrifying piece. What terrible vision had scarred them so deeply? What secret horror did their wide, black eyes refuse to forget? The 9 men who returned from the Ozark Forest were ghosts. Their eyes still wide, like they stared into an endless void. Their voices were gone, replaced by a haunting silence. They moved like shadows. But one of them, a trapper named Elias, seemed to carry a heavier, darker burden. Elias lived alone in a small, rough cabin on the edge of the settlement. He rarely slept. He paced. He stared at the forest line, a silent terror gripping him. The other survivors kept their distance. They knew his fear. They felt it too. Then, one bitter November night, the silence in Elias's cabin shattered. Not with words, with a desperate, terrible sound. A low, guttural grunt. A scraping noise. A thud. The next morning, a neighbor checked on Elias. He found the cabin door ajar. A chill wind cut through the small space. The air inside felt thick, heavy. A metallic smell hung in the air. The neighbor's breath hitched. On the cabin wall, scrawled with something dark and slick, was a symbol. Not letters. Not numbers. It was a jagged, twisting shape. 3 lines converging, then spiraling outward like a broken star. It was crude. It was ancient. It was wrong. And it was drawn in blood. Fresh blood. Elias was gone. His bed was cold. His traps were still in the corner. His rifle lay untouched. Only the bloody symbol remained. It dripped slowly down the wall. It pulsed with a silent, terrible warning. What did the symbol mean? Was it a message from the depths of the Ozarks? Or a final, desperate cry from a man haunted beyond endurance? The force that stole the trappers' voices now seemed to claim their lives. Elias had tried to tell them. He had broken his silence in the only way he could. But what had he seen that made him draw such a thing? And what took him away after? The forest had come for him again. And it was not finished. The blood on the cabin wall was a scream no one heard. The vanishing of the last trapper shattered the fragile silence that held the Ozark community. Fear, cold and sharp, gripped the small settlements. It wasn't just another man lost. This was different. This was a message. Whispers started. Low voices in darkened cabins. Stories passed from porch to porch, hushed and quick. People spoke of the woods. The deep, dark woods that had always given sustenance. Now the woods felt like a hungry mouth. They watched. They waited. The remaining 8 survivors were living ghosts. Mute, their eyes wide, black pools reflecting a terror no one could name. Folks avoided them. Not out of cruelty, but out of a deeper, primal dread. What did they see? What horror did they carry behind those dilated eyes? No one dared to ask. No one wanted to know. Their silence was a heavy shroud, thicker than any fog that rolled through the valleys. Old-timers remembered other tales. Stories of things that moved in the shadow, things with no names. Things that took more than just a life. They took minds. They left marks. The symbol, drawn in blood, became a thing of dread, a secret language of the forest. What did it mean? Was it a warning? A claim? Or something far, far worse? Families pulled their children closer. Doors were barred earlier. Lamps burned through the night. The Ozarks, once a provider, now felt like a cage. A place where something ancient had woken up. Something that craved more than just fur and game. It wanted fear. It wanted souls. And it was still out there. Lurking. Waiting. What else did it want from the people who lived on its edges? The woods held its breath. The Ozark woods still whisper. They still hold secrets. More than a century has passed since those 9 silent men stumbled out, their eyes wide, their voices gone. But the horror did not die with the calendar pages. It lingered. It waited. Today the symbol appears again. Not just in old journals or forgotten tales. It is carved, deep, rough, into the bark of ancient trees. Sometimes on a forgotten trail. Sometimes near a creek bed, far from any path. Always the same twisted design. The same dark mark drawn in blood on a cabin wall so long ago. Hikers find them. Hunters stumble upon them. A chill hits their bones. They know the old stories. They feel eyes on them. They feel the forest watch. The air grows cold, even on a warm day. The birds fall silent. The legacy of 1883 is not just a story. It is a warning. The forest remembers. The thing that changed those men, that stole their voices and warped their minds, it never left. It still alters. It still marks. It still calls to those who venture too deep. People still vanish in the Ozarks. Not often. Not in great numbers. Just enough. Enough to keep the fear alive. Enough to make you look over your shoulder. Enough to make you wonder if the silence you hear is natural, or if something else is listening. Something with permanently dilated eyes. Something that waits. The symbol is a scar on the land. A reminder that some doorways, once opened, can never truly be closed. What happened in 1883 was not an isolated event. It was the beginning. The Ozark Forest holds its breath. It watches you. It waits for you. If this journey into the dark corners of history has left you with questions, remember, some answers are best left buried deep.